pretty much, man. Thank you. I'm in your town, but thank you for doing the show.
Yeah.
Retired captain, Air Force.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur. I follow your content, man. It's probably about like 3 years now. So,
Okay.
If you can, please share with my subscribers who don't know you already what it is you do and what is MOA.
So the simple answer is for men who want to level up as far as networking, leadership, communication, and dating, that's what we're here for. Basically, the world has changed in the last 15 years. A lot of my clients are either people just getting into the dating scene, for instance, or into the job market. And I also have a lot of clients that were sort of out of the dating market for a while because they were married and got back in. And then they noticed, hey, there's been a software update. Now everyone's on dating apps or using Instagram. People are showing status different ways that they weren't doing 15 years ago. The world does not teach you to get it. There's no tutorial on how to be attractive. You might think there is, but there really isn't. My job is to teach you to get it. Why is it that some guys, they're able to throw events or go to events, they give a toast, every woman in the room is looking at them, they're just more charismatic, they're better leaders, they get better deals than you do, they get any job they want, they get the best employees. Why is it they're able to do that and you're not able to do that? And what I do is I break down these concepts in evolutionary psychology when it comes to men working together in order to accomplish goals and how those are the more high status men. And throughout history, there's several books on this. Throughout history, men who have worked together in groups have always had access to more women, to more resources. So we take these concepts from our history, from our anthropological history, and we turn these things into actual, real, tangible results for people today. If you can't replace your social circle, if you can't replace your girlfriend, and you can't replace your job in 15 minutes, you don't have enough abundance. And we teach you to have that level of abundance. And we also, there's another thing that we teach in the program, which is you consider someone who's extremely famous. Consider like The Rock or someone like that level of fame. Cristiano Ronaldo, that level of fame. LeBron James, whatever. So we'll call them a 10 famous. They're a 10 out of 10 famous. What I want is for you, and then we'll say like a 5 famous would be like some streamer like Aiden Ross or maybe someone like Speed or someone like that. And then what I want is for you as my client, if you join our program, I want you to be like a 1 or a 2 level famous, what we call like a mid-tier level of fame, where every hot girl in your city has seen your face. They know who you are. Every employer in your arena is aware of your work. There's a way to become this like mid-tier level of fame that didn't exist before social media. We teach you to use that. So every time you're on a date with a girl, the GM of the restaurant or the chef comes out to greet you. Every time you go to a nightclub, you just walk in effortlessly. Half the time when you go to a conference, they ask you to speak on stage. How do you get those opportunities? That's exactly what I teach.
How long do they need to be in your program to be able to reach just a minimum of what you're talking about?
About 20 days to reach the minimum level, because there's certain things like the biggest ROI you're going to get is completely fixing your social media. By doing that, you're going to notice. I get hundreds of messages from my clients. We're at 2,500 people that have gone through the course now. I get hundreds of messages from my clients. Hey, Michael, I changed my social media. My ex-girlfriend's messaging me out of nowhere. She's telling me I shouldn't be dating this girl. And I'm messaging her like, wait, you broke up with me. Why are you messaging me? The effect that it's having on the people around them, that's going to happen. That can happen in 20 days. If you put in the work, it can happen very, very quickly.
No matter the location?
No. So here's the funny thing. I have a client in New York. And he's actually having the opposite problem. It's so packed and busy in New York, and he lives on the far side of Brooklyn, that it's like he has to take a train an hour to get to Manhattan. So he's in a city with millions and millions and millions of people, and he's still able to do it. He's still able to pull it off. But it's the guys who actually live in these mid-tier cities like Waco, guys who live in like Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, or that live in Wichita, Kansas. They crush it because there's no social scene there. So they make their own scene. They take the techniques that I teach. There's beautiful women in every city. You just take the ones that are in that area, and you can figure out how to create a social circle in those locations. And then as far as the social media stuff is concerned, it doesn't make any difference where you are. Now, is it ideal to live in some place like, I think Scottsdale would be ideal, Las Vegas would be ideal, but Las Vegas just because there's so many beautiful women that come here to compete for the bikini competitions and to work in the pools and stuff like that. But I think probably there's no issue with being in a small town. It really, I have so many clients, and I don't know why, from Dusseldorf, Germany. I have I just so many, and I know that's not a super small town, but just a disproportionate. And then I have the biggest city is probably Mumbai. I have several clients who live in Mumbai. I have 2 clients that are using VPNs that are currently in the People's Republic of China. Yeah, right now it's pretty amazing. They're like messaging me from China. That one's pretty crazy. But the guys who are like throwing charity events in India, those are the ones. So it's like you're sitting there in Mississippi and you're complaining about this. Do you know how hard this is to do in India compared to here?
That's true.
I think I have 8 clients now in Dubai, and then in like probably the biggest places are going to be New York, Austin, Las Vegas. We have a ton, Miami, Los Angeles, and then I have a lot in like the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. But that's kind of where most of them are. I have a few in San Francisco, but they're all over the country. Oh, obviously Dallas, I have a ton too. But yeah, I mean that's what I've seen. It really doesn't seem to matter. There's advantages and disadvantages to being in very populated locations, and advantages and disadvantages into being very unpopulated. I have one client. He's 51 years old. He's a grandfather, and he was living in Eastern Washington. I mean, there was nothing out there. He got a boat. He started messaging the girls around there in the area, and he started having all the attractive women in the city come out because nobody was doing what he was doing. Okay. So he started having parties, and he's just showing me videos of like all these girls in his hot tub. This guy's 51 years old, and I was like, holy crap, man! I actually wanted to come to Eastern Washington. I was like, how'd you figure this out? Like, this is crazy. And he's just like, yeah, I just did what you told me in the program to build a social circle. And then the other part is, and this always happens, is that these guys end up getting either better jobs or better employees from the program I teach because they're hooked into better circles. This is something like, if you're somebody and you're trying to get that dream job you've always wanted, the guys who are giving out those jobs are going to dinners with people who aren't you. They're going to parties with people who aren't you. They're going to concerts with people who aren't you. They're going to nightclubs with people who aren't you. They're going to conventions with people who aren't you. And I teach you who those people are, how to get connected with them. And it really is who you know. I mean, if I told you, I just cannot tell you, especially in like things like anything to do with media, the level of nepotism and the level of just like who you know is part of the reason. It's so, you notice all those guys like the James Franco and the Seth Rogen and the Jonah Hill, they were all friends before they became famous. It was like they created each other's fame because they knew each other. You'd be surprised how many like famous actors were in groups of other famous actors that trained at like Second City in Chicago. It was because it was who they knew. Their buddy got famous, so their buddy brought them up to become famous as well. Okay. That's another technique that I teach you in the program.
Kind of like Adam Sandler effect type of.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. Adam Sandler made his friends famous, like legitimately made his friends famous, right? And so that's the kind of thing. And then you also see, like, say, with like Saturday Night Live, how many of those people really weren't famous when they were on Saturday Night Live, became famous, and then started having the co-actors join them on different programs. So that's exactly what it is. And these are places that you would think would be meritocracies, but they're not meritocracies. They're just, it's who you know. It's networking. And so if you understand the concepts of a meritocracy, meaning I need to be the best salesman in my company, and then also understand the concepts of networking, which is I am now indisputably the boss's favorite. Like, I've made myself irreplaceable in this company. Now you can ask for the raise. Now you can get the better job. Now you have other people making offers to you. That's where this kind of thing happens. So starting the ability to use social circle and social status as a leverage point for networking, for dating, and for your job or for your business, that's essentially what I'm teaching.
And if they do your program to an extent, like the longer the better, I would presume.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had guys stay in. We've been. Let me see. We're at 4.5 years. We've had several guys. We actually have a couple guys that were in the program before there was a program. They were actually with the previous thing that I was teaching. Okay. But we have several dozen guys who've been in since the beginning. And they've just stayed with us forever. Several of them we've hired to become coaches for us. Okay. But yeah, usually when guys join the alumni program, they stay with us forever, for years and years and years. Yeah. Okay. Because it creates a network of accountability and feedback. You need accountability and feedback. Again, if you go to I love Tony Robbins, obviously, but like if you go to a Tony Robbins conference and then afterwards you just, you had a big cry, hugged your friend, you just felt the power in the room. It was almost like a religious experience. And then you go home, back to your mother's basement, and you do absolutely nothing with what you learned, then you just go back to zero. You're still overweight. You're still sitting there leaving hateful comments on YouTube because you're jealous of other people. All those kind of things. That's still your life. You haven't changed that. But if you have a network of people that hold you accountable and give you feedback, then what happens is like now you actually feel guilt for not going to the gym, for not finishing 75 hard, right? Andy Frisella's course, for not sitting there and correctly doing your intermittent fasting, whatever it is, your cold plunge. Maybe you got into, TRT and peptides. Maybe you started counting your macros and you have meal prep. Maybe you have a deal where you promise yourself to read one book a week, even if it's an audiobook, whatever. All these things that you make yourself do, you need some level of accountability from a network in order to keep you on that path, to keep you going to the gym every week, even when you don't feel like going to the gym, even when you're depressed because something in life didn't work out that way. It's still time to go to the gym. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. And the way you get through that, again, is with a network of people that hold you accountable.
I get you. It's like a big, solid support system that keeps you on your toes.
That's what Men of Action is. That's why it's called Men of Action. Yeah, exactly. It's a brotherhood. It's a brotherhood of action, really, where we all come together and do this. By the way, there are women in the group. I just don't charge them. I have women come on the calls and do this. It's usually like big models that'll come and they'll speak or whatever, but I let them in the course and I don't. It's just, for whatever reason, if I had to make a living from female self-help, I don't really think that's a really great market, to be honest with you. I'm not going to make a bunch of comments here and offend anybody, but like female self-help is not the same as male self-help. Yeah. Male self-help is a huge business. Female self-help is like the 5 love languages and like astrology. So it just is very, very different.
I get you.
Yeah.
And then to follow up on like to say like your content and everything I've been following, can you speak up on like how I see you push it very strongly about that it is safe and it's okay to have female friends?
Yes.
As a male.
Yes. So when I first figured this out, I was managing a strip club from 2001 to 2004. And when I was there, I remember there were girls that were like, hey, we're going to go out for Sarah's birthday, whatever. And, half the girls, I didn't even find them attractive. I was like, say, dating one of the girls at the club or whatever. And we would go to a bar and I was like, holy shit, like I don't have to wait for anything. Like the place opens up for me. Wait, why are women coming up to me and talking to me? So I'd go to a bar with 10 girls because I'm there for a girl's birthday party. And I'm like, I'm the only guy. And I'm like, why are there girls coming up and talking to me, asking me for my phone number or whatever? Girls are flirting with me in front of the girl I'm dating. What's going on here? The concept of mate choice copying from psychology was something I wasn't aware of. Ironically, I was there at the same time Dr. David Buss at University of Texas at Austin. I was there at the same time he was. I didn't know about these concepts. I wasn't aware of them. So what happened was from those experiences, I started to realize having women introduce me to other women, having women get me into cooler places, and having women, being around attractive women, causing me to be calibrated when I'm around beautiful women, those were incredible advantages that I found. Around 2008, when I started coaching, so that would have been 16 years ago, I was the first one to say that I've never seen any other coach in this space before me say this. Men and women should be friends. Yeah. You put women in the friend zone. You don't let them put you in the friend zone. And when you have I don't know if you saw the recent one, it went viral. This one guy, he was like, here's a networking tip. Don't cancel me. You need to be friends with more hoes. It was so funny when he said, the way he said it was so funny. I was like, oh, okay, good. Now we can say it. Now I don't get in trouble. I have a lot of female friends that I would never date. They're just walking red flags. And I tell them they're walking red flags. But when I go to parties with them, it's incredible the doors they open for me. And he's right. They know all the wealthiest men in the city. They're like, it's so incredibly hooked up. And they've got amazing connections. It's a great book. It's called Very Important People by Professor Ashley Mears from Boston University. And she's a former model who got her PhD in sociology. And she did an experiment where she ran around basically as a bottle rat for 2 years. And she documented her experiences. Now, I do think her interpretations are not correct because she blamed everything on misogyny and racism. But her experiences, her descriptions are very accurate. And one of the things she talked about was men in the Hamptons. So just imagine it's summertime in New York, and the people in the Hamptons are some of the wealthiest people in the entire world. The white parties that are out there, exclusive invites. You can't pay to get into any of these parties. How do you get into all the parties? The answer is to have beautiful women with you. So just imagine the networking you could do if you were a venture capitalist or you were trying to get an incredible job or whatever, somewhere in New York. And you had access to every single party in the Hamptons. I know if I go to New York, I know enough girls there to where I could get into every party in the Hamptons. That's what I would like. If you're a guy, how do you not know that? When I'm going to Ty Lopez's event Saturday, and I'm bringing a bunch of girls with me. Why not? Well, I don't understand. I'm tired of going to self-help conferences where there's 15 dudes for every woman. I'm sick of that. I want there to be more women there. Parties are more fun when there's just as many women as men there. Why can't we do that? Why is it every time you go to a real estate convention, every time you go to like see accountants, every time you go to any kind of thing where men are leveling up their business or people are leveling up their business, there's 7 guys for every girl. Yeah. Why? Why can't we just change that? Wouldn't it be more fun? Think of if you're a real estate agent. And, you know, real estate agents have mixers all the time, right? They're trying to drum up new clients. Yeah. You're the one real estate agent in the city where there's 3 times as many girls as guys. Why? Because you did an animal rescue charity and had a fashion show at your real estate event. So now everyone knows, hey, man, whenever you're throwing a real estate event, there's going to be 3 times as many girls as guys. I'm always going to his stuff. Yeah. Okay. You don't think that's going to help your business? You don't understand human psychology. Okay. Yeah.
What about the men that like say that they can't have an attractive woman friend?
Yeah, it's you mean because they're married or because they're just having a hard time with it?
They're just having a hard time with it. Like maybe I guess they just don't grasp with women like that. Like they don't like it's hard for them to even be around women for them to have an attractive friend. It's just like
my good buddy Dan Bilzerian said it the best. Just imagine she has chlamydia. Like if you just do that, if you were to literally like you were sitting there talking to a woman and she's very attractive, but you knew she had a disease that you could not have sex with her. Think of all the pressure it would take off the communication between her. You'd just be chill. You'd just be like you and me talking right now. It's like, oh man, did you see the football game yesterday? That was crazy, man. Did you see that catch? It was amazing. That's how you would talk. You'd be like, oh man, it's crazy, man. Sally found out her husband was cheating on her the whole time. I know, that's fucking nuts. That's how you would talk.
I see.
But even though she's beautiful, what do most guys do when they're around beautiful women? Hi, do you want to go get a drink with me? Let's go get a drink together. You guys seem so fun. Yeah. Well, like, dude, what happened to your voice? Like, why do you sound like that all of a sudden? Why are you seeking rapport with your voice? Because you're not treating her like you would treat your guy friends. These long hugs that guys give girls, and their hands just like slowly go down the girl's ass. And like, would you do that with your guy friends? Stare into his eyes, and just get dick to dick, and like while you're hugging it? No, you wouldn't do that, would you? Why are you doing it with women who have no value for you, who've done nothing to earn your affection? Well, man, here's the key. If you want one takeaway for your audience to leave with, understand as a man, when you give your attention to a woman and she's done nothing to earn it, you lower your value. It's so hard for guys to understand this because they get stuck at strip clubs where they give women attention and the women give them back attention. Women giving attention is free for them. It's worthless. Women do not care about giving you attention. They love giving attention because when they give attention, they get attention, and attention is like heroin for them, okay? For men, we want validation, we want compliance, and we want sex. Well, when we give attention, we should only be giving attention to a woman who's giving us compliance. But as men, our attention is so incredibly cheap that OnlyFans made $6 billion last year. Why is that? Because we as men, our attention is cheap. We give it away cheaply because we're cheap and we think that we're worthless. That's why we would do something like that, okay? It's one of the craziest things when I watch this, like guys leaving the heart eye emojis or liking girls' photos or whatever. It's like, you can like a girl's photo if she graduated from college or had a kid or paid off a house. I don't mind that. Don't like a bikini photo. Why? What did she do to earn
I have a friend that does that. Like, he comes on the podcast like sometimes and I tell him like, hey, like don't like the guests. Don't like their photos. Like, man, you can follow them. You don't have to like their shit.
Yeah, I never do that. Now, I can, what I might do is I'll take her story and reply to it with something funny and sarcastic so no one sees that. I'm not going to she's not going to gain status by using me as like a footstool. That's not how it's going to work. I will give people adoration. Like 2 of my closest friends are Kindly Myers and CJ Sparks. I'll give them adoration because they've been good friends to me. You understand? Yeah. And by the way, if you have a good woman, there's another thing, is a massive misconception I teach in my program. And this is from Tristan Tate and Justin Waller. I totally agree with this concept. They call it gentleman game. And maybe it's because I'm from the South, I'm from Texas. But this concept of like, for most women, I would never buy them a purse, pay for their car, buy them jewelry, buy them outfits or whatever. For women you're not sleeping with, you're a sugar daddy. Yeah. You're tricking. Like, that's what you're doing. If a woman is good to you, if she cooks and cleans for you, she takes care of your home, you should buy her all that shit. Because that's what you're rewarding a good woman who is genuinely concerned with your well-being, who feeds you before you even ask for it. That woman, you give her everything. She deserves it. If she's the mother of your children, you give her everything. She deserves that. But that's not what guys are doing. They're giving everything to women that just showed them their boobies pushed together on Instagram. And it's sad and pitiful, and their value as men consistently drops because of the attention that they're giving away for free.
What would you say to the men that like don't ever get attention and mistaken the hi, hey, how's it going? And like, hey, she's talked to me.
Yeah.
Like, I think she likes me. Like,
well, the first thing I would do is read some books on evolutionary psychology, specifically Dr. Buss's work on overperception bias. So what you just described is called male overperception bias. And the way it works is the more attractive a woman is, the more men will misinterpret everything she does as an invitation for sex. This is an evolutionary response because men accidentally having sex with a lot of women doesn't hurt men in a Pleistocene time period, meaning pre-agricultural revolution. During that time period, 50,000 years ago, during that time period, if a man had sex with a lot of women, it didn't hurt him, and the likelihood of his genes getting passed on was higher. A woman having sex with the wrong man was terrible, so women have what's called an underperception bias. Guys can be very attracted to women. You've probably seen this before, where she's like, "Oh, we're going on my friend John's boat," and I'm like, "Yeah, John wants to fuck you. That's why you're going on his boat." And she's like, "No, John isn't like that. He's just like a brother." And I'm like, "No, John is just trying to smash." She's like, "No, you should come out with us." I'm like, "No, John doesn't want me to come out with you. I have a penis. John wants to have sex with you. That's the only reason he's bringing you on the boat." And she doesn't see it. Why is it she doesn't see it? Partially, sometimes girls play dumb. They know. But a lot of times they're doing it because they have a general underperception bias. Men, on the other hand, and it's really funny. They do some experiments. They take a man and a woman who have neutral facial expressions towards each other. They're studying for a test. They show this to a bunch of students in a psychology classroom. The woman is of average physical attractiveness, and they ask the men and the women, how likely is she interested in having sex with him? The women put it at around like 15, 20%, the men at like 60%. So the men automatically overperceive that she's interested in him sexually just because of their genetics, high levels of testosterone, et cetera. When they make the woman more attractive, they put makeup on her, you can see cleavage, and she looks more physically attractive. Then they ask the same students the same question. Now men, it's like the 80s or 90 percentile that they believe she's sexually attracted. The women are the same. It's not only that men overperceive that women are attracted to them or overperceive anything women do as an invitation for sex. By the way, that whole mismatch, evolutionary mismatch, is the whole reason for OnlyFans, whole reason for Instagram, the whole reason for strip clubs. That overperception not only exists with men, but the more attractive a woman is, the more likely men are to mischaracterize her behavior. Safeway did this one experiment. They did this one thing where they required their cashiers to say, "Hey, Mr. Smith, thank you for shopping at Safeway." When a male cashier said, "Hey, Mr. Smith," to another male customer, no problem. When a female cashier said it to another female, no problem. When a male cashier said it to another female, no problem. When female cashiers smiled, looked at the man and say, "Thank you, Mr. Smith, for shopping at Safeway," often men were following the female cashiers into the parking lot after they got off work, waiting for them after they got work to ask them out on dates. It was such a problem that Safeway had to stop this practice because men were constantly over-perceiving this. Remember the other thing we talked about at the very beginning, social media, the software update that's happening, it's causing it so that this bottom group of men is getting less and less and less attention, and more attention is being shot over here to the higher status group of men. They're at the party with Travis Scott, and they're at the Drake party or whatever. These men over here that are these huge Hollywood parties, these men have 14, 21, 50 women a week asking them on dates, and this bottom third of men haven't had sex in 3 or 4 years. That's where we're getting. In fact, there's some data that shows somewhere between the bottom quarter and the bottom third of men are either have had one sexual partner or none in the last year. And we're talking about men we'll just say men under the age of 35. And I'm extrapolating because there's several different pieces of data. I think it's 28% of men under the age of 30 are virgins. And I think under the age of 30, men who haven't had sex in the last year, I can't remember what it is, but it's a number around somewhere between 18 and 25%, somewhere around there. So let's just say, even though you've had sex one time in the last year, that you don't have women solved, and maybe you hired a prostitute, whatever. So let's say this bottom third of men are not doing very well. The median man has had 5 sexual partners in his life. 5. Okay, so that means 50% above and 50% below that man. If you're in the top 5%, you've had 50 sexual partners. So we go 0 or 1, 5, and now we're up to 50. The top 1% of men, 150 sexual partners. So 0, 1, 5, 50, 150. This is what it looks like for the body count for men. Okay? For women, the top 5% is 18 sexual partners. 18, but for men, it's 50. For women, the top 1%, 35 sexual partners. Dude, I know 100 girls at 35 that work in Vegas. 35 is the top 1% for women. Now, we can probably guess that women are probably underreporting the number of sexual partners they have, but it's still not 150. Yeah. The median man, his desire for sexual variety puts him in the top 1% of women.
What is the median man?
The median man is, so if you were to stratify the number of so if we were to give you a survey, anonymous survey, and say, how many sexual partners would you wish to have before you died? And men will answer somewhere between 5, 20, some guys will say 100. Whatever the number is, they average it out, and whatever the median man says, meaning 50% above, 50% below, that would put him, let's just say it's 20, that would put him in the top 1% of women. The only most promiscuous women only want 20 sexual partners, whereas the median man wants that. And why is it? It's because men have 17 times as much testosterone as women. And one of the things we define in our program is the very clear, ingrained, and innate sex differences between men and women that society in general, and big tech specifically, doesn't want people to talk about. They don't want to express to you that men and women are different. And the more, by the way, the more egalitarian a country becomes, this is a really interesting study, again, done by Dr. David Buss of UT Austin, when they looked at egalitarian societies, meaning like Norway, Sweden, Finland, some of these Scandinavian countries, where women are enrolled in college more than men and make about the same as men, where the laws favor women more in some of these instances. In those countries, those women actually, instead of pursuing men who made less money and were shorter and had fewer alpha qualities, they actually looked for more masculine men. Meaning, as women make more money, they want men who make even more money. On average, it's about 1.6. So if a woman makes 100 grand a year, on average, when women are surveyed, they want about a man who makes about 60% more than them. And so you would think as women become wealthier, Rihanna was making hundreds of millions of dollars. Who was she dating? A billionaire. Yeah. She needed someone who made even more money than her. Sure. These concepts of hypergamy are something that I have to explain often to my clients because they've been brainwashed because of what big tech, Disney, the church, and their parents have told them about how the world is supposed to be. Things are supposed to be fair. Everything is just like that movie Hitch with Will Smith, where you just give all your attention to one girl and just show her that you love her, and then she just loves you back. And yes, and that's the way the world works, and it's all fair, and good guys get good girls, and that's what they want you to believe. And of course, we know that isn't true. You live in the world for any period of time, and you just understand, like you were a good guy who makes a good living and treats your woman well, and she leaves you for Brock the bartender, and you can't figure out why because you never took the time to figure out social dynamics. You just believed in a myth that somebody told you.
When it comes to social dynamics, what about that bad boy and nice guy thing?
So you can do both and be attractive. One of the great advantages that you have as a man, one of the disadvantages that you have as a man is that the average woman is not interested in the average man. So being average is a huge disadvantage for you as a man. But one of the huge advantages that you do have is just like in football, if you watch American football, you can throw screen passes, you can throw bubble screens, you can run draws, you can run trap plays, you can run ISOs, you can run play action, you can just go deep. There's all different ways you can play defense. There's several different ways to score in American football. There's several different ways to score if you're a man. So you can have charisma, you can have networking. This is a big one. The alignments that you have with other men, really, really huge attraction trigger for women. You can have pre-selection, which means that other women find you attractive. You can have physique. You can have money. You can actually have ambition. So, I mean, it's not just resources, but it's access to resources. And it's not just money, but it's the mechanisms to make money. Women are also attracted to men who have the mechanisms to make money. The fifth-year associate at the law firm, women find that more attractive. It's really funny. Women will find the first-year associate at the law firm more attractive than the plumber who owns his own practice. The plumber who owns his own practice might make $300,000 a year. The first-year associate is not making $300,000 a year, right? And so it's funny, women will still see the associate as being more attractive because the mechanisms he has to make money, being an attorney, make him more attractive to women. Same thing with a doctor, you know, a residency and being a doctorate. It's really interesting how those things work. In fact, there are some jobs that you can have that are actually less attractive than being unemployed. This is really crazy. If you're unemployed, that's more attractive to women. There's a survey where they show women are more attracted to men who are unemployed than men who work as trash collectors. If you work in if you're a janitor, you're actually more attractive to women being unemployed than being a janitor. Isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy that like women think because there's a certain mystique to every job title. Lawyer is actually like the top of all of them. Like attorney is one of the highest ones. But podcast host unfortunately isn't that high, right? I found that out on my own. But when you find these things out, what things you're going to find is that the way women select for men, we have so many different ways of scoring. Like I said before, so I mean, my buddy Dan Bilzerian, he just came out with Sigma Society, and he has 12 different attraction triggers he names in there. I believe it's probably more around 20 or 30, maybe even 50 different attraction triggers you have, because it can be different types of social net. Every type of skill set you have. Like for instance, I have a friend of mine. He is a plastic surgeon. All he does is eyelids. He just fixes people's eyelids. That's all he does. He specializes in one thing. Incredibly attractive to women because he has a bunch of money and he's a doctor. And for some women, he actually can fix their eyelids. And so because of that, that is a type of game I'm not familiar with, and I can't do that type of game. I would call that competency game. He also, because he's very competent at what he does, he goes and speaks at different conferences or whatever. A guy who's a cardiologist, that's a different type of game. But I also know a guy, he worked on stage at a nightclub, and he was the one who passed out the artist wristbands. That's all he did. He put out the artist that says, so it's a Diplo on it. And he did that and slept with so many models in Las Vegas. It was crazy because he was the one giving access to the scarce resource, which was to go on stage at the nightclub. So that's a different type of game. So I want you to consider the plastic surgeon. He has one type of game. Then the guy who gives out the wristbands has a different type of game. The club promoter has a different type of game. We've all seen the guy at the gym who takes steroids and has the fucking tattoo sleeves and he's ripped. He's got a different type of game. The really funny short guy who's just like, who grew up weird, but he's funny and he makes women laugh. He's got a different type of game. The guy who has the mansion up in the hills, he's got a different kind of game. And the guy who, like, several of my clients are like this, the ones who set up these huge events. They ask someone, hey, can we use your mansion? The person says yes, and they set up these huge events and invite tons of girls over and have this crazy party, and they're the life of the party. That's a different type of game. Being able to connect people to each other, that's a different type of game. And the easiest one for men to start, who are at zero to start from, is the pre-selection game, which means you're introducing beautiful women to other beautiful women, and they're confused, like how you know all these beautiful women. And that confusion, and that interest, and that curiosity creates an evolutionary pang that is attraction. It is an attraction trigger towards you as a man because you're able to get these women to connect with each other, or they're actually sitting there like wondering, how the fuck does this guy know all these girls? Like, what is he doing? Is he sleeping with them? Like, who is he sleeping with? It's one of the craziest things where, if you've ever experienced this, a girl breaks up with you and you show up at a party 2 weeks later with a girl who's hotter than her, her brain cracks. She's like, no, like, you were a stock that she shorted. She sold you. Your stock she sold. And then she sees you go to the moon, like Bitcoin. She's like, wait, no, this can't be right. And she gets so angry. You've never seen a woman this angry. Most guys have never experienced this. A woman breaks up with you and you show up at a party where she's at with a girl who's hotter than her. Her brain cracks. She can't deal with it psychologically. Because what hypergamy is whenever women reject you, they're basically saying, or their genetics are saying, your genes are not worthy to be passed on into the future. And you proved her wrong. You want to talk about a woman being scorned? I have seen women, when they deal with that whole idea of like they break up and you upgrade faster than them, which by the way is going to happen eventually. If you have a girl, you're 23 and she's 23, and she's not interested in you when she's 23 and hot, because you're 23, you're broke. By the time you're 30 and she's 30, we're getting pretty close. She's starting to consider marriage, and you're doing a little better in your job, but she's still like not that interested in you. When you guys are both 40, she's throwing herself at you. She's throwing herself at you. When you're 40 and she's 40, now the 23-year-old is interested in you, and the 40-year-old that you came up with, that you graduated from college with, she's throwing herself at you because her 40 is very different from your 40. And that's the thing. That's this weird thing that happens, is that women, they see you as a beta. They reject you, and then you come back and you went and took men of action. You leveled up in all the 50 different ways that I told you to level up. I gave you all this advice. You come back and you'll know my program's working. The number one, guys are like, how do I know when the program's working? It's when your exes and the people you went to high school start messaging you, bro, you've changed. You're different now. You're fucking right, I'm different. I don't want to live the same life that I lived before. I'm not fat anymore, dude. I get the girls that I want. I live the life that I want. I have my dream job now. I've built a brand where I can get hired at any company I want because I listened to what these evolutionary principles were. Of course I've leveled up. You're fucking right, I've changed. That's essentially what happens, right? So that's That's when you know the program's working. It's so funny. Hundreds of times I've had my clients say that. My ex-girlfriend who dumped me, my ex-girlfriend who cheated on me started messaging me and telling me that I shouldn't date this girl. My ex-girlfriend who dumped me is messaging me, telling me, she's like, I don't like that you're posting these pictures with all these girls. That's how you know it works. People do not complain. You notice women do not complain about their friends dating broke, old, fat, poor men. Yeah. They complain about good-looking rich men who fuck them and don't call them the next day. You don't complain about problems that don't happen. You complain about problems that do happen. She's only complaining because it's effective. Women complain about pre-selection because it works, not because it doesn't.
Very true. Very true. That is true. Because, like, just to give an example of what you just explained right now, like I said, like one of my friends, like he's probably had on the podcast more consistently now, and actually the same thing too. His ex has been hitting him like, hey, like I seen you like on the podcast, like are you a host now or whatever? Because she's seen him like actually his status is actually trying to.
Yeah. Did I make a, what she's saying is, did I make a mistake?
Yeah.
Did I make a mistake? Should I stayed with you?
Yeah.
Did I make a mistake? She's trying to, because she wants you to screw up. She wants to be like, no, baby, please take me back. She's like, oh, okay, good. He's asking me to take him back. I know he's the beta. I made the right decision. But instead, you ignore her or you double tap the phone like a little heart and you don't message her back. She's like, fuck, I messed up. I got rid of the alpha. Damn it.
And what else would you teach in your course? That also that is it? Obviously, besides status and leveling up, like how many of these you say 12 triggers or 20? How many of these items do they have to have as complete as a combo to at least like elevate themselves?
No, you need one. You honestly can crush it with one. But here's the thing. You can't let any of the other triggers go below like 80%, meaning the tall, good-looking guy with bad breath. You can't be that guy, okay? My favorite, you want to know a great way to meet women? Follow dudes around who are rich and have no game. They creep women out. They don't know what they're doing. Go to a place where there's a bunch of dudes like that and just be a normal guy who doesn't creep women out. You'll end up leaving with like 4 or 5 girls. It's amazing. Like, it's all you have to do. Just don't be the creepy dude. Or the really good-looking guy who only uses his looks to get women and treats like that. Yeah. But like all you have to do is just not be weird, and all of a sudden women are throwing themselves at you because he's weird, because he never developed game because he's so good-looking. Being around guys like that, or here's another one: find a place where they're doing like a PUA or a pickup boot camp, and just follow those guys around, and you'll see just droves of like women freaked out, and like what the fuck was going on, and you just go up to them and you're like, hey, what did that guy say to you? And the girl's like, he came up to me and said all this weird stuff. When women are surrounded by beta, they crave alpha. You should write that down. When women are surrounded by beta, they crave alpha. Every guy who's paying a sugar baby, that sugar baby is sleeping with another man who doesn't pay her because she needs alpha in her life because she's being paid by beta. So when you have that, when you understand those concepts, like you'll see these things. Like what you need though is for all of these mechanisms. Just imagine if you're playing Madden or FIFA or MLB The Show, some video game where you're an athlete. You want speed at least an 80, acceleration at an 80. You want awareness at an 80. But maybe like you'd have a guy like, let's just say Elon Musk. Elon Musk, his money is going to be at a 99, right? Yeah. Or his intelligence is going to be at a 99, right? Brad Pitt, his looks are going to be at a 99, right? The different attributes you can get up to a 99. People are really funny. Dave Chappelle might not be a male model, but his humor is at a 99. Women are going to find him attractive because of fame and humor, right? Dan Bilzerian is 5'9", so his height's not going to be at a 99, but his charisma and fame and social status are going to be at a 99. Famous people know him, right? So that's a different. Those are different ways where that would work. Justin Bieber, he might not be physically imposing, but his fame is going to be at a 99, right? His talent, his competency as his talent might be a 99. So those are different things. You can when you asked him before about the good guy and the bad guy, it was funny. I was having dinner with the creator of Marvel Studios, my buddy David, 2 days ago, and one of the things we were talking about was the sort of conflict between Captain America and Iron Man. It's sort of a key conflict in the Marvel universe. Iron Man is a scoundrel. Captain America is a paragon, meaning Captain America is so good looking, and he's so good. And he's so noble, and he's such a hero, and he's so physically imposing that it actually, even though women generally don't like too much of that, he's so good looking he gets away with it. True. Whereas Iron Man is not as good looking, but he's a scoundrel and will tell. Like Captain America will never tell you to go fuck yourself, but Iron Man will always do it. And because of that, Iron Man is a scoundrel, and women like both. Women like Captain America. Women like Captain America, but women also like the cocky bartender who kind of tells you to go fuck yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so that's who these two these two paragons are. One of the biggest mistakes I see one of the biggest mistakes I see men make is they think that there's a way to attract good women and a way to attract bad women, and somehow they're different. And if you've ever had a guy friend who's like a male stripper or VIP host, or a guy who's just been with hundreds of women, and you ask him, so every woman you've been with is a slut? They're going to be like, no, most of the women I've been with are not slutty at all. The reason why they're with me is because I'm attractive, not because I'm attractive to slutty women. And the guys get this really messed up in their head. Women are attracted to attractive men, not attractive men who are good guys or attractive men who are bad guys. Just think about Travis Scott, who's with Rihanna, and he's with Kylie Jenner. He's out buying hookers in Brazil this week. I don't know if you saw the article that just came out. It's just like, even though he's a bad, like, think about Machine Gun Kelly, like literally cheating on Megan Fox. Megan Fox could have had anyone, but chose the dude who's like covered in fucking tattoos. She chose Machine Gun Kelly. But no, I thought your dream was Megan Fox. That's why you went and got that law degree, right? No. Megan Fox chose the bad boy, the drummer for Blink 182. I can't remember. I forgot what the guy's name is. But again, same thing. It's like these guys covered in head to toe in tattoos, and they get these beautiful women, but you're thinking that there's good guy status and bad guy status. There's no good guy status or bad guy status. Remember, Beyonce was cheated on by Jay-Z. And everyone looked at, you think about the philanderer that Bill Clinton was and became president of the United States. You know, regardless of what you think about Donald Trump, he fucked a porn star while his wife was pregnant and got elected to be the president of the United States. And you're worried about good guy status and bad guy status. This often happens when I have clients that come from a very, very structured upbringing. Some of my Eastern European clients are like this. Some of my the Indian continent, some of so like Sri Lanka.
Does this go back to like the Disney thing like you were talking about? Like,
no, I think it comes back to a very structured family environment growing up where it's like, okay, you want to express yourself. No, sit in the corner, Bobby, shut up. It's a very structured environment. I find that my friends that come from African-American or Latino cultures don't have this problem. They're very comfortable expressing themselves. My friends who come from Indian culture or Asian culture or from Eastern European culture, they have a very strict, their parents tell you, this is what you're going to do for a living. You're going to become a doctor. I don't want to hear anything. You're going to date this woman. I'm arranging this marriage for you. This is the girl you're going to be with. The people who come from that structure, they're being taught that other people's opinion matter. And because of that, they never give themselves permission. And they're taught, you will become an accountant, you will become a doctor, you will become a lawyer, make your family proud. Nothing else matters because of that. People come from that type of society because we know now there's too many lawyers. It's really hard to make a living as a lawyer. It wasn't 40 years ago, but now it is. And so now these guys have to go off on their own, become entrepreneurs, and their families who are like first or second generation Americans are like, no, I don't want you to do that. You need to do what I did. You need to get a vocation. And because they've been taught to care so much about what their parents think about who they date, what school they go to, and what job they get, when they get to me, these guys are asking me permission to ask questions. This is when I know they come from these structured environments. Like, hey, Michael, is it okay if I ask you a question? I'm like, motherfucker, you're in my course. Yeah. You paid to be here, and you just asked me permission to ask me a question. What are you doing? Yeah. The world is not going to wait for you to ask permission. Do you think that makes women turned on? Hey, ladies, who likes a guy who asks permission to ask a question? Do you think women like that? No, dude, your family has neutered you by the way that you were raised. Again, it's not their fault. Your family wanted what's best for you. It's just the world changed. And you need to give yourself permission in order to take what you want and to achieve the goals you want. And you need to not worry so much about other people's opinions. It was very difficult for me when I started this podcast. I do it on the concepts in evolutionary psychology, which is very, very offensive to a lot of people who are feminists and work in gender studies. They really don't like my content. And I thought some of my female friends who are feminists would hate me. They would never speak to me again. And not only was I wrong, they can't wait to come on the podcast. Okay? We're still friends. And the reason why we're still friends and why everything worked out and why it's cool is because of the fact that status is status is status. It doesn't make any... You guys, we all watched Jordan Belfort in a movie punch his wife in the stomach and kidnap his own kid while he slept with hundreds of prostitutes and did quaaludes and lots of cocaine. And if Jordan Belfort interviewed President of the United States, Donald Trump, we'd all watch the podcast. We love Jordan Belfort now. I'm not fucking leaving. We love The Wolf of Wall Street. We don't care. It was funny. We all sat there and watched a Jeffrey Dahmer documentary, the show about Jeffrey Dahmer. We loved it. People went for Halloween. What they do, they put on those big glasses because they wanted to be Jeffrey Dahmer. We didn't care that he ate people. We thought it was cool because he was high status. We sat there and watched Caitlyn Jenner. She ran over someone and killed them, ran over a second person, and was named Woman of the Year 4 months after that. We didn't care because she was famous. No one cared. If you're famous, no one cares. It is a terrible, horrible commentary on the human condition, but it's still true. I have friends all the time. They're like, what do I do, Michael, when people are hating on me or hating on my business? My answer is just get more famous. Run more ads. Grow your business and watch how nobody cares. And people who were talking shit about you before are asking to come to your birthday party. That's always the way it works. And so it's a horrible commentary on the human condition, but I've had several guy friends. I've had guy friends that are photographers and they're like, yeah, this girl doesn't like me and she's like saying horrible things about me. I'm like, grow your Instagram and watch how she doesn't care anymore in about a month. Watch.
Very true.
It's the way it is.
It goes back to like how you said like how the women actually react to actually like serial killers and people that are actually in jail like they're like the best.
The term is hybristophilia. It's women being attracted to men who commit violent crimes. If you look at Richard Ramirez, who was the Night Stalker in East LA. If you look at him, women were throwing they were throwing panties at him, and then you see all this stuff. The Wade Wilson trial. There's a guy named Wade Wilson who his tattoos all over his face, and women are like incredibly attracted to him. And you're like, how does this make sense? This seems like an evolutionary mismatch. It is a mismatch, but if you think about 50,000 years ago, if you're a woman, it might benefit you to be attracted to the most violent man possible. Consider marrying a man who's willing to protect you and your child, but willing to do unlimited levels of violence to anyone else who would come near you. That seems to me like a good bet because there's no police force back then. There's no one to save you. There's no one's. Genghis Khan didn't get canceled for all the people he took advantage of and killed. You understand? Genghis Khan didn't get for all the pillaging and taking other men's wives. Genghis Khan didn't get canceled for that back then in the 15th century. Back then, there was no one to protect you. So falling in love with the most violent man you could was probably an evolutionary adaptation, which is why like 1% of women are hybristophilic. I heard one guy tell me, no, it's not 1%. It's way more than 1% of women are hybristophilic. So I don't know how true that is. It's really funny. Dr. Martha Stout wrote a book called The Sociopath Next Door. And in her book, somewhere between 3, 4, 5% of the population have antisocial personality disorder, which is considered sociopaths. And I was listening to this one guy. He works in a prison. And he's like, there's no way, man. These guys are good. And I was like thinking to myself, like, bro, you're in a prison. They're doing everything they can to get out on parole. You're being lied to. I think in Las Vegas, it's like 8 or 9% of the people here are sociopaths. I think it's much higher. I think people don't understand how a sociopath can get along in society and function normally if they're a police officer, if they're a doctor, if they're a politician, and they're still sociopaths. And it's because people can confuse sociopaths with serial killers. Yeah. Most sociopaths don't commit any violence. Most sociopaths don't even do things that are wrong. Most sociopaths live normal lives. They just don't feel any empathy. When you see a sociopath who loses control, then that's when you see the serial killer. And people confuse those ideas.
I seen you did the little segment that you did with Tay. There's a part where you actually said it actually hit me too, that he said that he believes that testosterone is raised if a man performs the same act in front of women.
Yes.
And it made me go back to like just recently I've been getting back in the gym, falling off my routine. And my friends were like, man, I thought you were working out at the studio. Like, what happened? I thought you took weights there and everything. I said, man, it's not the same. Like, the environment when I'm actually in the gym, and it triggered, like, after what I see what you guys said, I was like, man, you know what? I actually get a better workout because I see there's more of the women around me actually perform better. Everything was just better, and it actually triggered, like, is that the same for men just out in public?
Yeah.
Period?
So that's not my opinion. There's studies, UNLV has done studies where they show that testosterone serum raises when men are in sports cars. When men are in sports cars with women with them, it goes up. When men play poker with beautiful women around, their testosterone serum goes up, and they are more likely to take higher risks when attractive women are around. And the casinos know this, which is why you'll notice that women, like prostitution is illegal in the United States, but really attractive women are somehow allowed to go into the high-limit poker room. You don't believe me? Go to any high-limit poker room in the middle of the night and just, wait a second, who is this woman? How come she wasn't carded? I was, no, because they know these guys are going to bet more money because there's attractive women around. Yeah, it's not my opinion. It's absolutely a fact. When men see women around, testosterone serum increases. Now, if you were to look at this evolutionarily, why would you see this? Like, well, when men are around attractive women, let's go back to the Pleistocene epoch, or if we go back, 50,000 years ago, men would need to compete with other men for access to those women. That's an evolutionary adaptation. So what should we see that's the opposite? What should happen to testosterone serum when men get into a marriage and have kids? Should it go up or down?
Yeah, go down.
It should go down.
Yeah.
That's what we should see. So we'd run the experiment, and of course, what do we find? It does go down. So what should happen when men get divorced? Should it go up or down?
Okay.
It should go back up. Yeah. And when we run the experiment, of course, we see that testosterone goes back up once men get out of a relationship. We can make an easy evolutionary hypothesis, and when we test the hypothesis, of course, it's right. Because rule number 2 in Men of Action is evolutionary psychology explains all human behavior. This is something else that's very controversial about my program. Evolutionary psychology explains all human behavior, even cultural behavior, because culture is always downstream from evolution. Culture is always downstream from genetics. You guys notice when we drink water, the water is clear when our faucets, and we have toilets. These are evolutionary adaptations, and we've created culture in order to fit our evolutionary necessity. We eat sweet, pretty foods that look right, that don't smell like they're rotting. You notice the food we eat, and when we get it from the store, it doesn't smell like sulfur. Why is that? It's because culture is always downstream from evolution.
Is like men that want to stay in the old school traditional type of way and don't want to follow and like get with the program, which is evolution, like will they ever succeed, or will they just fall in that 40% that just never mate?
So it's actually 60%. So throughout,
60%?
yeah. So historically, 40% of men and 80% of women have reproduced. There's one point in our history where, and we can count this by looking at the Y chromosomes in men, the diversity of Y chromosome. There's a point in our history, I want to say 17,000 years ago, I could be wrong, where there was 17 women for every one man that reproduced. I'm wrong about the 17,000. I forgot what time period it was. I was listening to William Costello talk about this. There's another point in our history, a few 100,000 years ago, where there were 16,000 humans left on the planet. This is before Homo sapiens existed. This is like Homo habilis, somewhere around that point. Only 16,000 humans, because of an extinction level event, only 16,000 humans left on were left on Earth, and all of our genetics come from those 16,000 people. So what does that mean? That means every single thing that they did had to aid in survival. So me as a man, I compete with other men for access to women, and I'm attracted to women who have a certain hip to waist ratio, signs of youth, and facial symmetry, because those things aided in the likelihood of my reproduction. That's why. And so now you start coming to the realization that every single one of our proclivities, males' desire for sexual selection and higher status, all comes from those 16,000 people and their necessity to survive. Huge realizations come when you just give in to this understanding.
So the people you debate with majority of the time are the people that don't want to just get with the science, basically, and follow the numbers.
Or they want to question the science. Mooncat made a video. It's got 1 million views right now that tries to debunk evolutionary psychology. And it's just full of red herrings. And she questions behavioral psychology, and she questions all the like reproducibility of other fields of psychology. So basically, she can't really question the efficability of evolutionary psychology, so she attacks behavioral psychology. Anyone who understands psychology is that behavioral psychology is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of evolutionary psychology. Behaviorists like B.F. Skinner basically thought that humans were blank slates, that you could just give them whatever stimulus you wanted, you could turn them into anything else. By the way, these are the people who believe in pray the gay away, or that homosexuality is a choice. Of course, we know it's not a choice. If you are a straight man, you know that your straightness is not a choice. Listen to me one more time. My heterosexuality is not a cultural construct. It is genetic. There's no way. Me being straight and thinking women are hot is not a choice.
Yeah, very true.
I don't care who that offends. And the men who are heterosexual like me know what I'm saying is true. You know, in your maleness, the true essence of your maleness is your attraction to the opposite sex. The idea that it is somehow culturally created. If you are a man and you like a fat ass, you know that no amount of television, radio, film, and movies could ever make you not like a fat ass. It is not a choice. You know that this is absolutely ingrained. It is the deepest level of your soul, of your being. You know that hot women are hot, and nothing will ever change that. And when you're 70, you'll still think they're hot. It's very difficult, because this is why we see the body positivity movement, and we saw M Brands, which owns Victoria's Secret, started putting transsexual people on stage, or overweight women on stage, instead of the normal Victoria's Secret angels that we saw before. because what they wanted to express to you is that beauty is subjective. But you as a man know it's not. You've always known beauty is not subjective. If you've ever come, well, I've hosted at this point over 60 bikini pageants. When I host a bikini pageant, I never vote in the bikini pageant. I always, because I'm the host and I'm always the recruiter. I always take myself out of the voting, and I'll always ask the other organizers, I'll be like, who do you guys think will win? We always write it down before the judges get a chance to vote, and we're always right. Why are we always right? Why am I always right about who's going to win? Because beauty is objective. It's not subjective. Now, parts of beauty are certainly objective. If you like African-American women more than you like white women, that's fine. But what you don't like are women that have fatter waist than hips. Yeah. We want like smaller waist than hips, even if we like a fat ass. Maybe some guys like fake boobs, some guys like real boobs. What we don't like are disfigured boobs. We don't like boobs that are asymmetrical. We like, there's signs of youth and facial symmetry, signs of a certain hip to waist ratio is what we look for, female youth and beauty. Those are the things that all men look for in every society. And in every society, the wealthier a man is, the greater the difference between the age of him and his wife. In every society, I'm including Aboriginal people in the middle of Australia. I'm including certain native tribes, ancestral tribes that are in the northern part of South America. I'm including Native Americans in the United States. I'm including every society. In every society, as men gain more status and wealth, the difference in age between them and their wife increases. In every society. Why is that? Is it a function of culture? How is it a function of culture when we're dealing with Indian tribes that have never had any exposure to television, radio, or film? How is that the case? Men's necessity for a variety of sexual partners being greater than women will, there's actually gender study courses that will argue that is a function of patriarchy. Really? Then why the fuck do chimpanzees do it also? Is that also patriarchy? Did chimpanzees watch our television? Is that what happened? Chimpanzees were throwing up ones, making it rain at the fucking strip club. Is that what happened? No, it's not patriarchy. It's genetics. Men are the way they are because women consistently reward those behaviors with sexual access. Men are more aggressive, they're more assertive, they're more ambitious because women reward those attributes with more sexual access and have babies that are more assertive, more aggressive, and more ambitious. It's called sexy sons hypothesis. And so what I've just done right here, probably offending half of your audience, and actually there's probably a good number of your audience is like, yeah, finally someone's saying this out loud. I'm saying the quiet part loud. As my buddy Orion Teraband would say, I'm saying the quiet part loud. You're not supposed to say these parts. So basically, women leaving men because they go broke, we're not supposed to say that out loud. Shh, you're not supposed to say that. We grew apart. That's what she says at the divorce hearing. We grew apart. I was like, no, he's broke now. That's why you left him. But we don't want to say that out loud because it makes you look shallow. We don't want to say that, right? But what do men do? She left him. She cheated on him because she got fat. Yeah. She got fat. We're not supposed to say that out loud. Keep that quiet. Not supposed to say that. So when we say those things, it's very ugly because it paints men and women as being very shallow creatures because we are. And the sooner you grasp that, the better salesperson you become, the more aware and your eyes are open when it comes to dating. Guys, I'm sorry, there's no such thing as unconditional love. I'm sorry to be the one to tell. If I'm the first one to tell you, sorry guys, there's no such thing as a soulmate. There's no such thing as unconditional love. The only unconditional love you'll ever have is for your children. And that's not a bug, it's a feature. It's a feature. It's good that your wife has unconditional love for your child. It's good that that happens. But what does that mean? It means she'll never have unconditional love for you.
Very true. Very true. Real quick, can you describe men that always say that, man, like she wanted something different or she's not like the other girl.
Yeah.
But women select like alike, like because all women are picky and men are simple.
Yes.
So is it a survival tactic for women? That's why they're picky, or is it?
Well, of course, it's survival. Yeah. So women have more of an aversion to disgust than men. Meaning, like when there's a roach in the room, or there's a snake, or there's like rotting food or whatever. They've done experiments. Women, their aversion to disgust is greater than men. Also, pregnancy sickness, morning sickness that women get in the first trimester of pregnancy, what is that? It's an immune evolutionary adaptation so that the fetus does not get poisoned because you ate foods that had toxins or that had pathogens in them. Does that make sense? That's why women experience morning sickness. In fact, there's another experiment they did where women who experience morning sickness are actually 3 times more likely to not experience automated abortions. You know, women will have spontaneous abortions. The child will just die for whatever reason. That'll happen because women eating bad foods. The way that they protect is they vomit. Women have an aversion to meat during the first trimester. What is that? It's an evolutionary adaptation to protect the fetus. So when you say those aversions, who is more likely to suffer the symptoms from STDs? Women are. Well, often, dude, men can catch HPV and have 0 symptoms. Men do not suffer the symptoms of venereal disease at anywhere near the rate that women do. So when you see this, so women protecting their fetus, also when children are born, throughout history, I'm not saying today, don't yell at me, ladies, but throughout history, who has been more responsible for feeding the child? Throughout history, women. Obviously, it's not even close. It's like a 100 to 1. So because of that, women procuring foods for their children that don't have toxins and that don't have pathogens, women throughout history, again, ladies, I'm not saying women need to be in the kitchen. But throughout history, women have been more involved when it comes to procuring food for the family. Women have been more involved in preparing food. And so when you realize that, well, what does that mean? Well, women have to be more picky. A guy named Robert Trivers came out in the 1970s with this concept called parental investment hypothesis. In evolutionary psychology, this is a great example of a falsifiable hypothesis that has never been falsified. And this hypothesis is this: in any 2 gender species, the gender that is more involved in parental investment, meaning the one that carries the child to gestation and then also feeds the child afterwards, that gender will be more picky. And here's the second part of parental investment hypothesis. The gender that is not as involved in parental investment is going to be competing with intrasexual competition with men competing with other men for access to those women. And in every single case, we find this to be the case. We find this to be the truth. There's a type of seahorse, there's a type of snake, and then there's a type of, I want to say, not turtle, a seahorse, snake, and a fish. And then in these cases, the males carry the eggs to gestation and the females compete for the males. Okay? In every case, this is falsifiable, never falsified. Women are more picky because they have more to lose because they invest more in the offspring. And because they're more picky, hypergamy exists, and the average woman is not interested in the average man, but the average man is interested in the average woman.
There you go. You broke it down.
The problem is, because of social media, the average woman now believes she has access to the 1% man, even though she doesn't. She may have access to him sexually, but she never has access to him as far as his resources are concerned, or as far as fecundity, meaning monogamy, is concerned. Loyalty, she'll never have that. But because she believes that she might have access to that, then she aims higher. And because she keeps aiming higher and higher, the average man then gets no chance. And then when she finally settles down and does get married around the age of 30, the average age of first marriage in the United States is 30. For women, when they finally do settle down, then at that point, average age is 29. When they finally do settle down, that's when you start seeing high levels of divorce and women claiming that they are settling for 5s. Alexander Datesike did one study where he said men will tend to settle for 8s and 80% of what they want, and women will settle for 5s. And the thing is, they're not settling for 5s; they're settling for 8s. It's just they don't know what an 8 looks like. Women will see a man who's an 8 and consider him to be a 5 because of hypergamy. That's essentially what happens. Women are not settling; they're ending up with the men that they were supposed to get with, and it ends up being what's called assorted mating. But the reason why they're ending up with 5s is because there aren't enough 8s to go around. The reason why the barista does not date the billionaire is because there's not enough billionaires. The reason why assortative mating happens is not because hypergamy isn't real. The reason why it happens is because of economics. It's not a function of hypergamy, it's a function of economics. So I think a lot of people lose that idea. And so what happens is these women who ended up with the men they were supposed to be with anyway, they say they're settling, and then they end up getting divorced. 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women, and there's a 56% divorce rate in the United States. And 56% divorce rate, if you take that 44% that did not get divorced, you cut that in half of those people are not happy. So those 22% are unhappy and just stayed married. So we have divorce works about 22% of the time. Realistically, about 22% of the time marriage works about 22% of the time. Okay. Actual 22% of the time it works. Consider anything else. One of the biggest financial arrangements you'll ever get into as a man is marriage.
Contract.
And absolutely no one informs you correctly about how marriage is going to work. When you buy a house, they do. They sure as hell do. When you buy a car, they give you all the bells and whistles and run through the entire contract and how the financing will work and what you'll have to do. You'll even, when you buy a car, you even find the resale value of the car before you bought the car.
True.
But when it comes to marriage, you have a 22% success rate. Nobody tells you that. No, imagine buying a house and saying, hey, man, there's a 70, imagine you buy a house, hey, man, there's a 78% chance your house is going to burn down. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Yeah. Hey, bro, you and me are going to start a business together. There's a 78% chance that we end up suing each other because the business fails. Could you imagine? Yeah. Can you imagine? But no, there's a 78% chance that your marriage is going to fail. Doesn't mean you're going to get divorced. There's a 56% chance you're going to divorce. There's another 22% chance that you're going to be married and unhappy. Can you imagine? Yeah. But we never tell this truth.
Really true.
Yeah.
I like the way you broke down the numbers for you guys. Yep. And real quick, before I wrap this up, can you please let them know why they need to sign up for MOA?
Again, if you are in a situation where you can't replace your girlfriend, you can't replace your social circle, and you can't replace your job in 15 minutes, you don't have enough abundance. If you want that level of abundance, that's what I teach you. I teach you to level up in networking, communication, leadership. Leadership is the most underrated attribute for men. It gets you the job you want and the girl of your dreams. Leadership. If you want to level up in networking, communication, leadership, and dating, a lot of guys want to go dating first. You don't want to go dating first. You want to get your life in order first, and then we'll work on dating. But if you want to level up in those areas, then Men of Action is not a good course. It's the only course you can possibly take. Men of Action Mentoring is the most comprehensive male self-improvement course in history. Let me say this one more time. Men of Action Mentoring is the most comprehensive male self-improvement course in history. Jocko Willink doesn't teach dating. Tony Robbins doesn't teach you how to have a threesome, right? And all these PUA coaches don't teach you how to start a business. True. This is the most comprehensive male self-improvement. This is the most comprehensive male self-improvement course in history. And if you want to check it out, you can go to school.com, SKOOL.com/Men of Action Mentoring. There's a hyphen in between each word. It's the same school that Alex Hormozy just invested in. You know, they have the school games, as Sam Ovens was the one who created it. Check out us at SKOOL.com/Men of Action free. There's a hyphen in between each word. Or you can go to MOAmentoring.com. You can actually see and set up a demo to actually see what the course is like.
Okay. There you guys go right there. You guys asked for him. I had him on the show. Here he goes. And I wish we had more time, man. So much
for sure.
So much information to go. But we'll do this again soon, man. I appreciate you giving me your time.
Thank you, brother. Talk to you soon.
All right, you guys.